Good morning, MSM. It's so great to be with you today. Today, we're going to be in week 4 of Atypical, where the last 3 weeks we've been talking about different aspects of how to be set apart as a family. And we talked about your family at home, but also our family as Christians. Because whether you like it or not, as a Christian, you are in a family. And we here at ZPC, we love to be a community, a family that is together, that stays together. So I want to start out with, have you ever been so mad at someone because of something they did? More your family. You ever been so mad at a sibling for something they did, or maybe they hurt you or told on you? Now, some feelings are probably riling up right now, but I want to flip that on its head and say, have you ever made someone so mad in your family that it was hard for them to forgive you? Today, guys, we're going to be talking about forgiveness. And for me, I was the youngest of 4. I had an oldest sister and then 2 older brothers. And it seemed as if my oldest brother was out to get me. Growing up, I was the youngest, so it seemed like to me that I was the favorite. And it seemed like that to my brothers as well, but that's another thing. I was the favorite, but that's another story. But it seemed like my brother would relentlessly pick on me and just single me out. Now, as I got older, I know it wasn't just me. My middle brother got it too, and we all fought like brothers. But at the end of the day, I loved my brother more than anything. I loved my family, and I still do. I constantly was mad at my brother. But at the end of the day, I did love him. And at the end of the day, I hope that you love your siblings like no other person, because they will always, hopefully, be there for you. So as we talk about forgiveness today, have hope, because today, me and my brother are great friends. I love my brother, and we FaceTime regularly. We talk. I call him for advice. There is hope, even though it might not seem like it, especially if you're the oldest sibling. It seems like everything and everyone is out to get you because you are the oldest. You're learning. Your parents are learning. Everyone is learning. But atypical families forgive each other. So let's look real quick in Matthew 18. Matthew 18, 21 through 22 says, "Then Peter came to him and asked, 'Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times?' 'No, not 7 times,' Jesus replied. 70 times 7. Now those are powerful words, and I know that you have heard those before. If you haven't, here you go. But some of you might be wondering, why should I even forgive someone? Especially like my annoying brother or sister. And some of you might be wondering, what's the point anyways? Well, I want to go to another passage in Colossians. But first, what I'm not saying is that you can't be mad at someone. Anger happens. People will hurt you. Sadness will happen. And that's okay. But forgiveness goes further than that. When you're done being angry, when you're done being sad, forgiveness goes so much further. And it is both sides. So let's look at that passage in Colossians. Turn to Colossians 3:12 through 15. Before we get into that, I want to give some context. Paul is writing to the church at Colossae. This church had been infiltrated by people who were pointing to things of this world and not to Jesus. So, Paul wrote this letter to confront these false teachings and share with them again the true way of pointing to no one else but Jesus. Colossians 3:12 through 15 says this: "Since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful." So now this was the church at Colossae. Now this was written specifically for those people in that time. But we can glean from that today. Because Paul, as the church was started in that time, he was trying to make a way for the church to know, and the church as in the Christian body, to know and understand how to be together in this journey that we call a walk in Christ. So remember, that letter was specifically written for the church at Colossae, and it was written to be passed around to the other churches as well. So we can take that today and think it's being passed to our church, because it is. We do need to forgive others. Now, there are certain situations that are tougher to forgive. And I'm not saying the forgive and forget method, because that is tough as well. Because sometimes we can forgive, but sometimes things aren't easily forgotten. So we understand that at this time, there were false teachers everywhere. There were people that were trying to get the glory of all of this Christ following on themselves and pointing people away from Jesus. But we know today that we use this passage that Paul wrote, and we use it as a reflection on what we should do as a Christian body, as a Christian community, as a church. Because being atypical or set apart comes with all that we've talked about these past weeks, but more importantly, it comes with forgiveness. Because in the beginning, God loved us, therefore we love. And we know through Jesus, God forgave us, therefore we forgive. So, forgiveness isn't a one-way street. Forgiveness is not condoning what people do to you. But sometimes forgiveness is a freedom to know that God has forgiven us. God has given us the grace and the mercy. That passage from Matthew that we read earlier, Jesus goes on to tell about a parable of a king that took away the debt of a servant that was in the millions. But then that servant goes to someone else that owes him money and does not forgive his debt. God has taken away our debts. God has given us a freedom from our debts. He's forgiven us. Therefore, being atypical or set apart as a Christian community, as a church that loves God, we are to be forgiving to others. Now, if there's a situation going on in your life that you think you cannot forgive someone for it, please reach out to someone. Reach out to me. Reach out to Elia. Reach out to Kira. Reach out to someone because we are in this together. We are in this journey towards Christ together. So forgive others. Be quick to forgive. In society, you might learn from society that forgiving isn't cool, or some, for the guys, isn't manly. I'm going to tell you right now, forgiving someone, showing mercy, showing grace, it is cool. And it is humanly. It's Christ-like above all. Christ has forgiven us. Therefore, we are to forgive others. Go out today, and if you have grievances or quarrels with family members or friends, I urge you to look into that and see if forgiveness is needed. And if you don't know, talk to somebody. Reach out to someone that might give you a little more advice on this. I love you guys. I miss you. If you don't know already, Thursday nights we'll be doing Zooms at 8 o'clock, but no small groups on Sundays. We're going to give our leaders the time off that they deserve. If you want to, reach out to them because they would love to hear you. They would love to hear from you. If you guys need anything, seriously, don't hesitate to reach out. Look to forgive others. Look to be set apart as God's holy people. And I know that I talk a little differently when I'm on these videos or I'm on stage. But it's because I'm passionate about you guys learning and being passionate about this stuff as well. So you hear me elongate words or go slower or maybe talk like this. Pay attention to when I slow down because I promise you there's something to be said when I slow down. Miss you guys. Don't be afraid to reach out. See ya.